know, is that eye candy or not? Mr. Robert Cole.
Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
And myself, Lauren Gray, the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Robert Cole is with me today. Thank you so much.
Lauren Gray, the amazing, that sort of thing. I thought that was a comma continuing your...
I tied, did you see that little slide I did? I said my name, and then I said some cool stuff, and then I dropped your name in. So if you listen to it up front, right, it sounds like I'm really stoking on myself. But anyway, right. Mr. Robert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. What I need to do is, can we stretch this show to 4 hours? I'm in Lubbock, Texas, helping my daughter move out of her apartment. So
now
I need
just freeze frame my face after we're done and keep talking to the computer. And I think you can get away with the whole day if you want to.
Well, I'm going to be around for about 5 minutes. So you're going to be on your. Although I did notice that Ed St. Ange opened many of those news things that I had sent out on the email. He was all over it early this morning, so I would expect.
So maybe he will grace us with his presence. You never know. I mean, he could be shouting out for it.
Maybe late because he's still studying them and he's writing his script for his comments on all of these. So.
Did you see my email that I sent out, an announcement of this show where it says, Marriott says, hold my beer?
Oh. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I know it's not in your list of things because we've already covered it last week because it happened literally as the show was rolling out. So it was the topic.
It happened 4 years ago.
Yeah, it happened 4 years ago. We found out about it just as the show was opening up.
That's right.
It was this whole thing now about, Friday morning burying the news, waiting as long as it did. Understand there's latency to determine the extent of it, but there should have been an announcement about it. That was,
my understanding is they discovered this there was some sort of, I don't know how large the file was, but they found some sort of strange encrypted file, right? And then I think they wound up breaking, having to crack that to see what's in there. And they opened it up and went, oh no, that shouldn't be in there. And so
what's that doing over
so
there?
I have a theory. This is based on absolutely zero information from Marriott. Pure conjecture, probably completely wrong, but I have a theory anyway. I think this was probably some sort of a pure inside job, maybe, I don't know. But I think it was probably somehow socially engineered. They got somebody's passwords and credentials and got high-level administrative access, because if Marriott was concerned that their keys for the payment encryption got captured in this whole thing,
right.
This wasn't just sort of some superficial, they were out somewhere coming through. They had deep access into the system. Yep. So I'm not sure. It may have been a smaller breach before, but I think at some point to really get the payload, they needed to get deep access, which probably was getting somebody's credentials somehow. And then, and again, it's always a trade-off of, hey, don't let anybody from home or remotely get into the system, sort of thing. That's a big, no, we'll VPN in and it'll be fine. But if you've got the credentials in the past, you should be able to get, straight in. And who knows, there are ways to spoof IP addresses and things like that, or to set things up. It could just be as simple as, we added one little IP address to be authorized to go get access to the system. Somebody's home number and go, oops, it's somewhere else.
And remember too, and I think that it is an accurate statement to say, but it also doesn't necessarily reflect the fact of the actual violation. Is anything that touches whatever was available is then hence corrupt. Yeah. Because even though it may have been, and it could have been, where they're looking at something specifically, but because that specific item was in a larger item, that entire larger item is corrupt, and then that larger item is and so on, so that you're looking at the fact that we save 500 million, and I'm not trying to diminish the impact of this by any stretch, and it could be as big as we think it is. It's just the fact
it may not have been released. I mean, it may not have ever been taken out by somebody. Maybe they had gathered this, and maybe they had accessed the system 4 years ago, but it took them 4 years to get this level of access. They assembled the file and they never downloaded it, right? They couldn't do that. There's a great hack of MGM had its casino systems hacked through a fish tank. And one of they had some sort of thing that I think it automatically fed the fish or controlled the temperatures or whatever, but it was accessible onto their corporate network, and that is how the hackers got in through the freaking
crazy. I didn't know
tank.
that.
Oh yeah. They're a bunch of just
The old
absolutely
fish tank maneuver.
Well, yeah, and for hoteliers looking at things like the Internet of Things and stuff like that. Yeah, that's and we want. The joke that I put somebody on LinkedIn, I think it was Henry Harteveld or somebody posted on LinkedIn or Facebook, about the hack. And I was like, and I just put, just imagine if the hotel industry. The good news is, just imagine if the hotel industry was like the banking industry or the credit card or something where you had these tightly integrated systems, right? Where you
right. Oh yeah, I read your post. I read your post. Yes.
Full information. It's like, oh, well, good. We didn't just get this stuff, but yeah, we know what
you bought at the grocery store.
Yeah, we know all the stuff at the IP addresses. Yeah, we know what IP addresses you were accessing. We know all the stuff. We know everything you've ordered for food. And Tim Peter is joining. That's excellent.
Oh.
But yeah, we are so excited to see you.
Are you?
We are. Because we know you were, you've told all of us you were the mastermind of the Marriott hack, and we want to know how you did it.
Oh, well, really, it's amazing. You just download a few scripts from the internet, and it's amazing what you can do.
Exactly.
Robert was bragging about his fish tank maneuver when he hacked at MGM.
Got it.
MGM's system got hacked through their fish tank. They had a large fish tank with like an auto feeder, light control, water temperature, whatever it was controlling, and it was on the network, and they got in that way.
Wow.
Yeah,
no fish tank maneuver.
Anyway, as you have children in college, I have to leave. I apologize. I am helping my daughter move out of her apartment.
Oh, nice. All right.
Because she's going to be studying in Florence next spring.
Fantastic.
Which is always good. And it was very nice because she has an Italian visa. I think she got a note from the U.S. State Department for a nice travel warning saying, hey, don't go to Christmas markets and don't do this and terrorism. So she's like, great.
So go to Florence, but don't have any fun.
We've not told my wife about that part.
Yeah,
no, we don't share that with the wife.
Unfortunately, your wife watches the show, and now
my wife has. I'm trying to think of anything in my wife's world which you would have less interest in than this show, and I don't know.
Not coming up with anything.
And sadly enough, Tim's wife did probably the same thing.
Yeah, but for completely different reasons. That's only because she thinks I'm a moron. That's not true.
I don't know whether you saw this. Yeah, I don't know whether you saw this, Tim, but the email that I sent out to everybody was I put as the headline is like, and Marriott says, hold my beer, because that's what brought up this conversation, because we heard about it last. Tim froze. There he is. That last week we covered this because it was breaking, but then the ramifications this whole week of, gee, Marriott, did you try to bury it on Friday morning news? Gee, Marriott, why didn't you say something sooner? Blah, 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 blah. And that's where this conversation piped up from.
I think they were still trying to figure out what. I bet between September, they discovered it in September and now.
Yeah.
My guess is they were probably like, what is this? How big is it? And then there was probably, some discussion of position it and things like that.
Right.
My daughter's waving at me. Apparently the show has to go on for 4 hours. If you could carry all that stuff out to the truck.
I don't think that's going to fly, Dad.
She's a strong, hey, I am all for equal. I am a feminist. Equal rights for women. She should be able to carry whatever. Oh, you can be on screen. Say hi to Tim and Lauren. Come on. This is Miranda.
I'm Miranda.
Hi, Miranda. How are you? Your dad is a very smart man. That's all to get off his butt and help
you. They can't hear you. They're saying really mean things about me. So they're happy I'm leaving. So anyway,
that is
have
true.
a lovely time with all the news articles. There's lots of Yes. I'm going to be beaten.
Robert's daughter. We know this is Robert's daughter.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
A lovely time. Lots of interesting news things.
Yes, you did. You gave us a bevy of information. Thank you.
Oh,
very
and
much.
the
Robert,
rut row. The
lift-
rut row
lift
was a
with your legs.
particularly. It was Hilton who told Marriott, "Hold my beer." I think.
Yeah, that's true. We should say with the camera
row.
shower thing. Yeah. We'll get to the rut row for sure. We'll
Okay.
make sure we
We'll
get
get
that
to
one.
the
as
rut row
well.
for sure.
Have a
All right.
great
Lift
weekend.
with your legs, Robert. Lift with your legs.
I just have to get the stuff onto my daughter's back and lash it to her.
You don't have to take that from him, Miranda.
Long like bull. Yeah.
Strongly bull.
All right.
Okay.
Be well. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye,
be
Mr.
safe.
Robert.
Bye.
Mr. Tim, thank you. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing all right. I'm fighting the creeping plague, but I decided.
Oh no, is that the
No,
stuffy
it's
sound I hear?
Yeah, exactly. It's
man,
okay. It's all right. It's that season. I will live. It will be.
Yes. Now, Robert did leave us some fun topics, but we don't have to hang to them particularly. But I had a couple other items I wanted to throw into it too. But is there anything that you wanted to chime in about that you thought was of interest?
Well, I will admit I love the fact that Expedia came out and said Google is our biggest competitor, and I like this story for two reasons. One is because I think it's true, and two, because Duetto published a white paper last week that Robert and I and some other folks participated in and gave our various thoughts, where they referred to Google as your most important distribution channel. And in fact, if I can quote myself directly in the white paper, I said, where is it? I'm looking for this. Oh, for heaven's sakes, where the heck did it go? I just had it a second ago.
You know what you said. You don't have to look at it.
Well, I wanted to get it as close to the quote as possible. But basically, my point was, I said that, I think that they're an enormous competitive threat to the OTAs. That Google is an enormous competitive threat. So it was really cool to see Expedia come out and say exactly what I said. So that always makes me happy.
Yes. Yeah. No. And then it is this week is the Expedia Love Fest. I love what Robert said in his note that he sent out of all the topics that he referred to it. That it's the time that the general populace of hoteliers drop their pitchforks and torches and stop fighting Expedia and enjoy the hospitality of Expedia's Love Fest in Las Vegas. Because they throw an amazing party. If anybody can do it, it is probably it ranks as being some of the best organized and I wouldn't say over the top, but I would almost say over the top experiences for people. It's kind of like the Consumer Electronics Show in the sense that this is a gathering of everything. And
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
It's funny because one of the biggest struggles that Google has, the booking, that's the cold medicine talking. One of the biggest struggles that Expedia has and Booking will have and the like is, Expedia has most of the inventory they're going to get. And I mean, even if you look in Europe and places like that, obviously they've got some room for growth. There's plenty of room for organic growth there. But, domestically, North America and some specific countries around the world, they're not going to get a lot of organic growth because they've got most of the properties they're going to get, right? So their growth has to come from other places. And I think they will, over time, either learn to find ways to partner with hotels to increase their revenue, or they're going to have to do something else, right? I mean, unfortunately, they have to feed the beast every quarter. They have to feed the beast every year and drive increased growth. And it's not going to come from adding tons more inventory, at least in North America, right? So it's no surprise they're going to do a big party like they do every year. I mean, it's a hell of an event, and try to bring people in to show that they're willing to play nice with hotels, and that could be a good thing in the long run.
And strangely enough, and going back to your Google statement to this, and I want to echo a little bit more of it with the Google. Do it against me for my opinion, but that's fine. I've learned to get. My therapist said I should get past that. No, but the fact that Google does what Google wants, and Google controls how large the portal is for us.
Right.
I mean, one day it could be a big barn door, and the next day it could be a peephole. It depends on what they think they want to send to us and how they want to send it to us. And there's things that are not literally in our control. We're sitting at the bottom of the mountain waiting for the person to come down from the top of the volcano to tell us what's going on. Does he have 10 or 15 commandments? Because they're constantly changing the rules to whatever they think they want to say it is. And you need, in this strange world, and I'm not saying that we should have a love fest all the time with Expedia and every other OTA, but they're the only well-recognized other alternatives to discovery.
Right. Oh, that's right.
So you go into Google and all of a sudden you have this location ranking. How well do you rank? You can't control it. It's determined by them. And then I find out that location ranking isn't even standardized. It's based upon its interpretation of you as the individual user as to the ranking.
That's right.
So now all of a sudden it's like, holy geez. So you as a product provider, as a hotelier, putting your hotel out, cannot control how Google defines your relevance to the potential guests that you want to get to through their portal, because they're dynamically changing that value proposition on their own platform. Yeah. So strange enough way, and I remember long enough back, because I'm old enough and back, that you used to look for websites on a big book you went to the bookstore to find, because there was no search engine. It was the big World Wide Web book, and you would open it up, and it was like a phone book.
In the directory, the directory.
It didn't last long, but it burned in my brain. It goes back to the hotelier book. Remember the big book? If you were in the hotel book, you were a hotel, because if you were, and it got ridiculously expensive. But so those days of all of a sudden being cut off from the ability to discover or being controlled by a single source is what Google is reflecting. So to your quote and your comment, Google is the biggest threat, because it truly dictates the communication ability of your guests to your product.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's this. Google is always going to try to do what they think. I think that Google is always going to try to do what they think is right for the guest. And here's the reason why. The reason why is that Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, made what, $19 billion last quarter? I have to look.
It was more, quarter, yes.
Quarter,
yes.
Right. Let's see, Alphabet earnings, Q3. Let's just see. Rats, that was the wrong place to go. Sorry. But they made, billions of dollars per, so $33.7 billion in revenue. And the advertised business accounted for $28.95 billion of that. So $29 billion out of $34 billion, right? So all of it, right? Google has a problem that there's never been a company as big as Google that has the biggest problem that they have, which is switching cost, right? What do you drive as a car, Lauren, if you don't mind my asking? What kind of car do you drive?
Well, Lexus, older one, but a Lexus.
Well, that's fine. Okay. If you wanted to go from a Lexus to a Mercedes tomorrow, right? What does it cost you to switch? It costs you the cost of a new car anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You a Mac user or PC? You Mac user or PC user?
Mac user.
Okay, so if you want to move from a Mac to a PC, what's it cost you to switch?
That substantive.
Right. If you wanted to start using Bing tomorrow as your search engine, what does it cost you to switch?
Not at all. Just a flip of a switch.
Not at all. Right. Nothing. Right. So Google has this incredible, benefit in that they provide the best search results, right? Or the best for some given value of the best. But they also have this incredible threat that the minute they don't provide good search results, customers could leave them tomorrow. I mean, immediately. All you have to do is type in a different URL. Even if you wanted to switch from Facebook, it's tough because all your friends and family are there, right? So there's not necessarily the economic piece. But switching from Google to Bing is a piece of cake. Right? It is really easy. Yes, I know people's behaviors are hard to change and all that other kind of stuff. But if Google wasn't giving good answers to the question, people would stop using them. And so they're sort of committed to this idea. They have to be committed to this idea of they have to give good answers, the best answer. I think that we as hotel operators, as we as hotel marketers have to think about not how do we put ourselves in front of customers, but rather how do we make sure we're the right answer for the types of guests we want to talk to. And the better job we do of that, the better we'll be in Google's world, while also making sure that, yeah, we play nice with Expedia. Yeah, we play nice with Booking.com. Yeah, we play nice with, Kayak and the various meta search, et cetera. Because the more competition there is for the customer, the better it is for us as hoteliers, because it's going to keep our costs lower and make sure that no one person is the sole gatekeeper who says, none shall pass, right?
Right. All right, Gandalf.
right. Yeah, I'm Gandalf the Pink. But right, that's the scenario of Google has to give a good answer, and the fact that there is some competition for the eye of the consumer is not a bad thing for hotels, because It ensures no one person gets to control that gate and say, yeah, you don't get to come through. So right. I think that's a real positive. When you talk to hotels, Lauren, about what they ought to be doing given this reality, what are some of the things you talk to them about? What are some of the things you say, hey, these are the things I would focus on right out of the gate?
Oh, well, we've had this discussion on the show many a times. I mean, the first and foremost thing is, how is your guest interaction? What is the quality of what you're doing with your guest? I mean, are you truly a hotelier and a hospitality at heart? Do you have the heart of the servant in mind with your experience with your product and core to that? And then, is that well represented to them? Are you conveying that beyond just the experience of your guests? Are you able to use that to generate more guest interest, because that's a known entity? Or is what you're doing reflected by your guests? That's like the pitchfork in the ground, straight up where you start from, and then you kind of string from there. Because you can only put so much lipstick on a pig.
Right, exactly. Well, and especially, first of all, yeah, exactly right, exactly. And nobody wants to, find themselves kissing a pig, right? But it's one of the reasons we rave about our buddy Ed St. Ange and the Flip2 guys all the time. Facebook has the same thing in terms of controlling their algorithm in terms of what content gets seen. And right now they're putting a lot of emphasis on content from friends and families being seen by friends and families. So, what Ed's group does, what Flip2 does, is all about get your guests to tell the story on your behalf to their friends and family. And, oh, by the way, that peeks through the algorithm. And, oh, by the way, they'll tell that story if, to your point, they had a really good guest experience in the first place. So it's all of a piece of making these work together to actually, provide a great experience for the guest, enlist their aid in telling the story, develop content that helps promote the things that you're actually good at, so that you become a good answer for the people who want that kind of thing. And ideally, you show up in Google from that perspective, right?
It's funny, just as you're talking about with Ed and Flip2, and he made you join us yet today. We hope he does. But I often find I've come this now on 3 different clients.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. They get Flip2, they buy Flip2.
Yeah.
And then it's like they bought a package they never opened. They left the box on the shelf. It's like, you bought this amazing thing and you don't use it.
Yeah.
You have to open the box and put your promotions in there, put your content in there, give them things to work with. It's just not a buy and forget mentality. It's like, you bought this amazing product, use it, Well,
that's true of everything, right? I mean, it's absolutely true of everything, and obviously I've worked with the Flip2 folks pretty closely over the years. They're always easy to work with and want to help you do this stuff. It is this scenario of, it doesn't matter if you're doing paid search, it doesn't matter if you're doing meta, it doesn't matter if you're doing, Flip2, it doesn't matter if you're doing social, whatever it is, none of this is set it and forget it. None of, the only one that's truly set it and forget it, and I hate to say this, is the OTAs, but we know how expensive that is. So you're paying for it in a different way, right? So you pick your poison.
Right. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, it's like there's lots of tools out there that people also don't really use to their full potential. I don't know if you use what do you use for parity, like OTA Insights, or we use OTA Insights. We use RateTiger. I mean, it really just depends on the client who we're working with and the like, right? Yeah. It's. I think what unfortunately happens a lot, and I find this is kind of like walking over previous purchases, like you're walking through a Christmas the day after Christmas boxes. Is that they bring all this stuff in because the pitch was convincing and they required them, but it's the creating the formula of strategy and I had this really great conversation with one of my ad hoc people that I really trust and like a lot. And it's a rare gift. I think one of the things I love and enjoy about this show, one of the most is that I get to talk about strategy.
Right.
It's a lost conversation.
Right.
It's all about functionality or format. It's about linear, just But the idea of concept of strategy of plugging the things together and putting them together in a way that has a purpose.
Right.
What did Edison say? I didn't fail 100 times. I just found 100 ways it didn't work.
Right. Right. Exactly right.
Is putting those things together, and the strategy discussion of it is there's some great functionalities in the industry. And as much as we bash the ecosystem of incestuousness and how it limits us in some ways, we also can't look a blind eye on the other side of that, which is we don't really utilize to the full potential the opportunities that a lot of these platforms represent. I am constantly amazed at the inefficiency use of CRM data, email campaigns. I would give a part of my anatomy to get a talented email person that would know how to truly work CRM strategy, workflows, and not because I don't know what to do, as it is the amount of work that needs to be perpetually done. I mean, those kind of things, those strategies associated with it are crazy valuable. Crazy valuable.
So here's funny that you say this, right? First of all, I just sent shameless promotion in the chat. I wrote a piece not long ago that said great marketing technology won't save you from a bad hotel marketing strategy.
I knew you would have a blog about this, right? Of course you do. You're brilliant like that.
But it's exactly right. It's I completely agree with this. This concept that you can't buy a tool and assume the tool is going to fix it for you. We were having a conversation with a client this week. We were having a planning meeting for 2019, and somebody made the analogy. We were talking about rev management systems, right? And somebody made the analogy. They said, "Look, here's the fact," and I thought this was spot on. They said some of these tools are Lamborghinis, and some of these tools are Mack trucks, right? And the reality is, most hotels need a Miata or need a Honda minivan, right? But their point was, you can make these things do a lot more if you know what to do with them and you know how to use them and all that other kind of stuff. The mistake that people make too often is they buy the Mack truck when they need the Miata, or they buy the Lamborghini when they need the Honda minivan, and then they don't run it to even remotely its capabilities as that, right? It's this thing of saying, A, I need the tool that matches what I need it to do, and B, if you bought a Mack truck and you were going to, run a shipping business, the Mack truck's not going to do anything if you don't get a driver and you don't put them in the seat and you don't give them a map of where to go and you don't, load the thing up correctly. You know what I mean? Like it's a very expensive doorstop at that point, and the technology is not going to do this for you.
No, it's very true. Very true.
I wanted to point out that this is a client of mine. I'm going to share some numbers, and I want to be very clear. We didn't do this. We gave them guidance in terms of what to do, but they actually do the execution. They do all the work in-house on this. In 2017, they sent 95,754 emails to their mailing list. They generated about $44,000 in revenue. Okay. This year, they sent, by using various types of segmentation and the like, they sent more emails, but they sent emails to a smaller set than they did previously, right? So each email didn't go out to the whole list. Each email went out to subsets of lists. So in total, they sent almost 208,000 emails. So they more than doubled the volume of emails they sent. And their open rate went up, and their revenues went up to $77,000.
Nice.
Right? And it was all about, let's target the right customers, let's target them with the right message, and let's go ahead and actually almost double sales.
Well,
right?
I'll share a conversation I literally had with a client. Well, of course, I won't mention the client, but there was a dormant list that they had when they transitioned off of one PMS system to another. And it was a dormant list, and it was a clean list in the sense that it had email, first name, last name, which is great initial start. You of course always want other segmentation of data,
of course,
data of origin, whatever. Anyway, but the conversation, the persistent conversation was, throw it into the pile and send out. I'm like, stop. Yes,
Right.
we can.
Right.
Obviously, we're going to use this list, but what we want to send out is the ability to monitor their interactions with what we're putting out to them, so that we can begin to segment their interests or
That's
their
right.
location or whatever it is that we can garner by what we present to them to make it more utilitarian, more valuable to it. Because if you just leave it as a bulk send for the rest of your life, you're just throwing out like a monkey hitting a red button.
Oh, yeah,
let's
yeah,
send
yeah.
that out to everybody. Bang. You know,
Right,
and
right.
eventually you're just going to torch the list. It'll diminish over time,
That's right.
and it turns into a worthless entity.
That's right.
So taking what you're saying is like, look, be smart and constructive about this, and doing workflows. You know, it blows my mind that people don't have the fact that you have your already automated things of confirmation or cancellation, pre-arrival, post-stay, we miss you stay, 6 months, we hope you're back thing, just little simple things that you can standardize as your engagements with your guests without the necessary needs to push anything. This is just general email dialogue
Correct.
that goes on.
That's right.
You know, and then by what they segment, do you like late deals? You know that they like late deals. Seasonalities, event-driven things where you know that they like certain events that come through.
Mhm.
Amenity-based.
Mhm.
You know, did they enjoy your spa or not your spa? If you offered them a spa or didn't you offer them a spa? You know, those abilities to finite those things and then make a flow that says, did they open it? Didn't it? If they did, don't. If they did, that puts them in the category. If they didn't, do you do a reminder email 3 days later or 5 days later or 7 days later, whatever you feel is a comfortable rotation time for it.
Right.
And you send something separate. You build this infrastructure, you would be amazed at the value proposition, as you're saying, that with your client that you pointed out. Just the increase in revenue from dialoguing correctly with your previous
Right.
guests is a value, it's a gold mine. It's a gold mine.
It's absolutely true. It's
All right,
so
well,
true. Say that again?
Not standing on a soapbox.
No, but you're
That's
right.
like,
You're-
do it, people, do it. They always look for the things like, oh, we need business this weekend. Send out an email. It's like, no. That's not how this all works.
Right. No, you're exactly right. It's all about what is your strategy? What is your plan? What's your messaging? What's your content calendar, et cetera? You know, if I could make one pitch, since you were on the soapbox for a second, I'm going to be on the soapbox for 1 second. I would ask people, please eliminate the term email blast from your vocabulary in 2019. You know, start thinking about different customer segments and different reasons why you're sending emails to those customer segments. And you know, you might not be hitting send to every single member of your email list every time you send. And in fact, if you are doing that, you're probably doing it wrong. You know, you want to think about okay, we're going to send to this segment of the list this time and this segment of the list this time because of whatever reasons are driving that specific email. Because these are the folks who are 3 days out from arrival. Because these are the people who haven't booked in the last year. Because these are the people we haven't heard from. Because these are the people who stayed a month ago and we want to hit them with a thank you or some offer or something like that. Yeah, it all becomes of a piece to say what is the reason why we're talking to these folks, and then go figure that your open rates go up, your unsubscribe rates go down, your click rates go up, and your revenue goes up. You know, it's kind of funny how those all play together.
Funny how that all works together. But even in it's such a common sense thing to say, just to add to what you're saying, is that even by offering a military rate or an AARP rate,
Sure.
you're able to identify people's, just from their interaction with it, not that they necessarily bumping your pitch, but you can identify them at that point so that in the future, should you think, you know what, we can now focus on them because we have something of value to offer them. And we know because of the previous engagement, they would probably be interested in this.
Absolutely.
The reason why you do last minute deals is because you know that they are in proximity to your product, to know that they would be advantageous, to know that they would maybe say, hey, you know what, let's take the weekend because we can drive there. You know, these kind of, thank you, Mr. Obvious, kind of statements don't get exercise. I never have yet inherited or taken into a client that was doing this well when I stepped in.
Sure.
They usually handled their CRM, not that they weren't doing CRM and email and engagement and so forth with confirmations and post-day surveys and so forth. And I'll even echo Ed's previous on the show statement: why do you want to ask negative questions after they've left to solicit negative feedback as the last official communication?
Right.
Even that has a tailored response, but that at best is what I've seen people do when I inherit them. They've never have had the, let me impress you with our perpetual incubation program, of engagement with our guests. And I usually ask, what is your return engagement with your guests? First off, most don't know They really, truly don't know their return engagement with their guests. And those that do usually aren't accurate. They're usually over ambitious in thinking how much it really is when we really look at it.
Which, I mean, I want to be fair. We get it. People are busy, right? The people have lots of other things to do. A lot of folks are checking people in. You know, they're maybe not scrubbing toilets, but they're trying to figure out how to take room, 202, put it back into service because there was a leak or thing. You know what I mean? So I get it. I also think that, you need to say, okay, that's when we need to ask for help. And whether it's with a Lauren or a me or a Robert, or it's, an agency who knows what they're doing or what have you. What you then have to do, though, is also hold those folks accountable, right? In your monthly meeting, ask them, what are you doing to make this better? What, these numbers look comparable to what we had last year. How are you going to improve on those? What are the things you're going to do to drive those up? And it should show up in your bottom line, your top line revenues and your bottom line profitability as well, right?
I would recommend, and I had this discussion just recently with one of my clients. I says, and they never thought of it this way. I says, any meeting that you have, however scheduled frequency it is or not, it should be 20% backwards looking and 80% forward looking.
Sure. Oh, that's great. That's great advice.
Because all too often, one is most of the data that's given for the meeting isn't handed over until you're actually in the meeting. So you're doing shoot from the hip responses.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at the data for first, and then you feel like you have to contribute to the conversation because you're in the meeting. So you better throw something up there.
Yeah.
So some things I always said is like, look, all data should be in your hands at least 24 hours before you're ever going to talk about it. Only part that you should talk about when it comes to forensic reporting is questions that didn't get answered from that data, or insights as to what you think the data historically pointed to that refer to future action. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else after that should be about where are we for the future of, and what are we talking about future of, and all these things that go on, event-driven promotions, seasonalities, business cycles, whatever it is, are already in the breach. You're talking ahead of the bullet. You're talking about what the next thing is, not what's coming. If you do this, you would be amazed at how efficient and productive and revenue generated value you would have from all this if you just simply change your meeting structures. And of course the old adage, don't have a meeting, just have a meeting.
Right. Well, and since we're on that topic, I realize this is a little bit off topic, but one of my long-standing rules when it comes to meeting, more a guideline, but is don't have hour-long meetings, have 45-minute meetings. Don't have half-hour-long meetings, have 20-minute meetings. If you can get it done in an hour, you can get it done in 45 minutes, for the most part. And you'd be amazed how much time you reclaim over the course of the day that then allows you time to get the work done you need to get done on stuff, right? But with that point, we a client I worked with not long ago had to part ways with a group they were working with, an agency they were working with, because literally on multiple occasions, the agency would come into the meeting. There would be, major issues in the reporting that they were providing at the time of the meeting. And when asked, well, what's causing that? What are you doing about that? And the like, the response tended to be, oh, yeah, that's something we should look at. And it's like, yeah, you think? That's something you should have looked at before you sent the report.
You brought it to us and you don't have an answer. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, if you're running into that, you probably want to move on. It's just a thing you want to be aware of. Sorry, go ahead.
But as I say, is that never bring anything to a meeting that you can't explain. And don't, and also with the meetings too, is that you don't mandate attendance, because if a meeting is good, people are wanting to be there because it solves problems
for sure.
Not because they're, another meeting, great, let's sit down and talk about it. It's like, no, people will want to be in the meeting, have it as an open door. Okay?
Absolutely.
But if you're solving their problem, they're going to show up. If you're not doing anything for them, don't make them show up. And this is from an engagement perspective of client and so forth, is I segment out, I have a link in my signature line that people can look at my schedule and drop in times. And one of the most productive things I did with that was I dropped in 15-minute segments and 30-minute segments, which before was always just the standard hour block. You go on Google calendars or other calendars, they always yank an hour out of it, But I segmented out and say, hey, you just want a 15-minute chat. People love, hey, I got something. I got to, hit you with something and then I got to go. I don't want to take an hour out. I don't want to have to block it out. I just need 15 minutes. And it is one of the more productive time cycles that I've thrown into there. Absolutely. And then I also have where it doesn't allow you to book back to back on something, because I'm trying to get out of the jump from one to the next, because that's a major gear shift from client to client.
Oh, sure.
And
sure.
and you go through this apology. I'm sorry, I'm 2 minutes late. Blah 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 because the other one tripped over. It's like no, nothing can be back to back anymore. It's got to be 15-minute cycle between the two. So at least you get a change in opportunities, and you don't have that bleed over potential.
To any of my clients who are watching this show, no, that would never happen with me. Never, ever. No. Anyway, hey, let's look at the other top stories we got.
Let's look at the news topic, shall we? I did enjoy talking about Expedia Love Fest. I thought I didn't snort coffee, but I did laugh out loud. Expedia refers to the fact that going into the vacation rental space won't take away from hoteliers. Really? That's like being married and saying my girlfriend's going to live with me, but it's okay. She doesn't mean as much to me as she does you, as you do to me.
Yeah. Well, I read that a slightly different way. First of all, I understand. No. I understand everything you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying. I read it a slightly different way, just in the sense that, yes, obviously this has some potential impacts to hotels. I would also suggest that, vacation rental is not a new category. Vacation rental has existed for a long time in the industry. Mm-hmm. And, it's a big business, but it's not a huge driver of room nights in the way that, hotels are, right? And the way I read this was, if you are struggling against vacation rental, then you need to think of you as a hotel. You need to think about what's going on with your product and what market segments you're serving and things along those lines. People who want to rent a place for a week and prepare their own meals and make their own beds and, find their own food and all that other kind of stuff, usually, not always, but usually is a different customer than the folks who want housekeeping and want room service and want, concierge and want those different amenities and those different services. So I would suggest it's less about whether Expedia is going to be funneling more or less business to you, and more about you as a hotel should be able to differentiate yourself from vacation rental and say, yeah, there are folks who want that, and that's okay. They're probably not our guest. There are plenty of people who want the things we do well, and those are our guests, and how are we attracting them, right? So, thinking about it more from the standpoint of who is the guest you're trying to serve.
I will, and actually, I was told that I should write something about this because they thought it was a great thing. So, not to toot my own horn, but I've really gotten happy with how I work with Airbnb in competition perspective. I take AirDNA. For those who don't know that platform, it is amazingly, how did they let that much data go out? But they have an amazing amount of data about Airbnb. And if you look at it, you realize that there is a business cycle to Airbnb engagement, and it'll tell you right on AirDNA as to what the business cycle of the inventory in your competitive market is. So you know that you need to be in that space if the demographics are matching what you're trying to drive into your home. Again, it goes back to knowing your guest and knowing what you're servicing to your guest as to whether or not this is even a place to be. But if you feel like, those demographics, for the reason they're coming into market, is something I want to get, then you place yourself into that market, that opportunity when people are looking at the consideration of Airbnb. And then you define what the demographics are specifically. And you'll find quickly that the type of inventory you're competing against is very finite. It's not everything in Airbnb.
That's exactly right.
And for those, to Tim's point, if it's not, they're wanting to cook their own kitchen and they want to have the big space because there's multifamily and they just want to dilute the overhead cost by the number of heads in the place, you're not going to beat that from a hotel perspective.
Right.
But not everybody coming to the same event with the same criteria are demographically the same. You have, what I found is satellite people that don't want to listen to Uncle Ed's snoring in the next room. And they don't have kids, so they don't want to be crawling over them with every one of their cousins in the same building. So they're happy with coming for whatever events driving them into market, but they aren't the ones that want to be in the same building or Airbnb thing, and they want to be in a hotel. If you can find out your message about, and I'll take Thanksgiving as a great holiday example of this. When people get together to go to a place, a family of any sorts, and say it's because their grandparents are in the same room. And we found this to be great because this is literally the messaging we were using. A lot of the families come in that have the kids, the smaller kids. Airbnb is a wonderful solution for them.
That's exactly right.
Run around, They can have their own food in the kitchen. The Cheerios can go everywhere, whatever it is. They don't have to worry about apologizing to other hotel guests that their kids are running around, half clothed with diapers hanging off or whatever. They're just it's all covered. Airbnb is perfect for them. But there's the others that don't have the same age kids, teenage or not, or any kids at all, that want to come to the same event. They want to be nearby.
Right.
So if you actually look at your Airbnb inventory in your own proximity, you actually can use that as bait to get people to stay at your hotel.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant, Warren. No, it's like, brilliant.
Oh, stay over there, but stay here with us.
It's absolutely brilliant. Well, I mean, it's funny because this is something my wife and I have talked about, and I'm going to admit something that I haven't really said out loud to people. We are looking to downsize. We've lived in our house for quite a few years. It's kind of big. Our kids have moved out, etc. So we're talking about getting a smaller place. We also are the family that hosts Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. And so one of the things we've talked about is when it's time for Christmas, when it's time for Thanksgiving, we might want to rent an Airbnb, excuse me, so we can continue to host in the style that,
Sure.
we like to host. But that's a very different trip than when we go on vacation. When I go on vacation, I want to lay by a pool and have people bring me fruit and bring me drinks with fruit on a stick and a little umbrella. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not, you always have to be conscious of beware the focus group of one. But every piece of data I've ever seen, everything I've ever looked at suggests I'm not alone in that one, right? So if you can't win my business, I'm not saying you'll necessarily win my business at Thanksgiving or Christmas if, in fact, we decide to use an Airbnb to substitute for our house, right? But that's a very different reality than what I'm doing all the other trips. And again, I don't think I'm alone on this. Most families, when they go away, mom and dad have been taking care of the kids all year long. Mom and dad have been cooking meals and making lunches and shuttling the kid, to soccer practice and everything else. Now mom and dad want to be able to sit by the pool or, sit in the restaurant or order room service and park the kids in front of a movie while they're, sitting on the balcony having a glass of wine. That's something you as a hotel should be able to do really easily and not have to worry about Airbnb or vacation rental across the board. So to bring this back to the Expedia story, and I've been posting some blog posts, and I've been doing shameless promotion, I admit it. But
it's awesome.
But to bring it back to the Expedia discussion, if you're losing business to vacation rental on Expedia and the like, I think the bigger challenge isn't that it's Expedia changing the product. I think the bigger challenge is you're not doing enough to differentiate your product and why someone would choose you as opposed to vacation rental, right?
And it goes back to the aspect of blunt trauma force marketing versus surgical specific targeting marketing. People look in it's a weird mix of our conversation actually, because here I was earlier on talking about the unuse of products that people purchase. They buy these platforms but really don't exploit their usabilities. Right. And like you said, getting these revenue management tools, and you bought the Ferrari to go to the grocery store. Okay, right. It'll get to there, but you can't carry much. Right. The thing goes through with this is that they think these amazing shiny things or these super deluxe quality things is going to be the singularity of solution when they go back and they do blunt marketing, like, oh, well, that Airbnb is just taking business out of my pocket. It's like, no, actually, if you do it right, you guys can live in the same ecosystem just fine. Sure. It's all good. You have your moments and they have theirs, and you can work collaboratively and do exceptionally well. And you compete great with them because there is inventory types that are competing with your hotel type at a time that you want that business. They're trying to get that business. So there's some head-to-head competitions that go on too. Knowing what they are when they are is the power to know what you need to message-wise convey. Like I have an all-suites hotel up in Vancouver that I'm working with, and they fight with Airbnb market because they're an all-suites. They have a kitchenette. So they have a lot of similarities to value propositions that Airbnb in the market have. The differentiations are things like, what's the reason they're coming to market? What's the mix of demographics of what's coming to market? When you start looking at that individuality, then you can start creating individual messaging. And then to bring something else full circle, you start communicating with your previous guests and the people they talk to, like with a Flip2 platform, what have you, and you are turning into the front of mind conversation. Airbnb is in the back seat, and it doesn't sometimes even get considered because you're solving all of the concerned, issue, trigger point decision making to the guest up front before they even have to consider alternatives, which is part of the working process. If you can answer the hows and so forth, then you can get the guests. So yeah. Well, we just served world hunger, world peace, world politics. What else we got to get?
Yeah, what's your next favorite story on the list this week? What else we got?
Oh, let's see. Well, I don't want to get to the Road quite way. Let's see. What was the other one I was peeking at? No, we did hit Airbnb. I don't want to hit Airbnb again. Oh, I did have one of my own. That's actually not on the list. I'll send this over. Please. And this was just, to me, it was funny. And I'll throw the link up because I'm hitting you blind with it. So I'll throw it up to you first, but I'll take it. So I came across this. I'm mixed between, is it genius or just a sign of the times, and it's a fad that'll fade. But what this is offering is, so many people are so tuned into sharing their experiences on social. It is a paramount aspect of their travel component. So this hotel chain offers the ability to say, don't worry about it. We're going to give you a photographer that's going to, a micro influencer, if you want to call him a different term, that's going to do all your social posting for you.
Sure.
So you can enjoy yourself and not feel like you're letting your fans down by sharing. Like I said, at first I smiled like, oh my gosh, are we that vain? Has it turned into this? But then if you look at, and I saw this firsthand, we did the tree lighting. Every city has its own tree lighting, obviously.
Of course.
And Santa arrived in the fire truck, and the tree was there, and there was lots of happy holiday music, and everybody was sitting around. And there was two types of people. Everybody had their phone up. As soon as it was like 5, 4, boom, all the phones go up, right?
Sure.
But there was the people that were just videoing it to have it as a memory, and those that were videoing themselves while it was happening.
Sure.
And I'm like, those are the people that would be interested when they travel to say, you know what, we'll just have this person follow us around and take all the magic moments for us.
Sure.
What do you think? I mean, I've read it about this. What do you think?
It's funny. I think, first of all, I want to take a big step back and say it's brilliant to get people talking about the hotel. It's a brilliant idea. I'm looking at the YouTube video right now. I have this muted, but, hold on one second. They've gotten 63,000 views of this video in a month. So that's an okay number or what have you, but it's getting them some traction. It's getting them some awareness and the like. So on a pure, get people talking about your level, I think it's a smart idea, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of, is this a moment in time that will pass? I don't know. I think clearly there are too many. Look, there's a lot of narcissism out there. We can debate that till we're blue in the face. But I don't want to sound like the get off my lawn guy or anything along those lines. People are going to do what people are going to do, and that's going to change over time. Folks like to take photos of stuff. I will tell you, given the ages my kids are and the number of photos we took or the videos we took with the big bulky video camera that we never can drag out and look at now that they're older, I would love to be able to go back in time and have an iPhone then to have taken videos that I would have in some other format, right? So, anytime there's a change in technology, there's a change in culture over time, right? I love the Geico ad where the person calls Alexander Graham Bell in the theater, right?
Yeah.
And, I laugh about that ad for two reasons. One, because he says his phone number is 1. That just kills me. That's his phone number. But two, and this is kind of the point, when he answers the phone, he says, ahoy, right? Now, this is a weird fact. When Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, he actually thought that people should answer the telephone by saying, ahoy. Like, they didn't make that up for the ad. He thought that that's what people should do. And he had all these things that he dreamed up in terms of, like, the etiquette of how people would use telephones. And that's not how anybody uses them. People the etiquette evolves around the way the technology changes, right?
Sure.
You know, for years and years and years, you wouldn't call people during dinner, right? It was just considered rude. You know,
right.
In my house growing up, we would never call a friend's house at 6 o'clock because it's dinner time, and that's rude, right? And that was etiquette that evolved to say, well, that's not a thing you don't do. Now, nobody answers the phone. It used to be the phone was ringing, you made a mad dash across the house. Oh my gosh, we got to get the phone while it's ringing. Right?
It's so important. Yeah, absolutely.
And now you look at it and you go, yeah, I'm not answering that. Right? So this whole idea of, you know, people taking selfies versus taking pictures of others versus other people taking pictures of them or whatever, it's a moment in time and the etiquette will shake itself out over time. I think this is really smart from you know, differentiating your property and saying something fun and, you know, all that kind of stuff and getting some buzz. You know, is it something that anybody will ever actually take them up on? I don't know. Is it something they'll be doing a year from now? Probably not. But if it gets them some play right now and puts IBIS in front of a whole bunch of people, you know, who had never heard of IBIS before, then it's pretty smart from that perspective.
Yes. No, from a great point to be made. From the idea of differentiation, this is a well played thing. I was looking for the actual usability of it. It's like it is an amazing mixed bag of usability versus cultural acceptance and so forth. I mean, you know, one thing that I have decided on traveling now, just to sidebar something that in similarities, is I refuse now to take any experience-driven travel and not find a local guide. I've really come to appreciate the fact that most of my previous travel has been exposure, but not indulgence of understanding. I mean, there's the Eiffel Tower. That's great, and I know about it, and I read about it, and here it is. Having that, and I haven't had this there, but going to other places now and having a local guide to explain things that are not well known or things that are more in depth about what you're looking at. You know, you can appreciate more where you're at from that experience. Sure. So, and I know people translate that in a simplistic way with just the visuals, like, hey, click, here's me in the Eiffel Tower, just so everybody knows I've been at the Eiffel Tower. So that's their way of capturing that time. Right. You know, and it has been pointed out that photography used to be about what you're looking at. Now it's about you being in it.
Right. Well, your photos, yeah, exactly. Your photos used to be a thing you owned. Now your photos are the thing you're in. Yeah, for sure. I
mean, even though I was talking about my fellow boating friends, and they said that because I saw a helicopter swooping through real close to the water around boats. I'm like, what's going on with that? And it says, oh, those guys. Yeah, they'll fly by you really low and take pictures of you and then look at your boat ID, contact you and sell you the pictures if you'd like to have some great pictures of you on your boat in the water. And I'm like, oh, well, that's really interesting. And they say, yeah, they charge like $500 a photo and you have to buy 3 of them a minimum. I'm like, really? And I go and I fly my drone. I'm going, go out in the water. I'll fly the drone by you and you have as many pictures as you want. I mean, but people want that. Like, hey, here I am. Look at me doing what you wish you were doing. You know, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, sure. I guess it's an age generational thing. I don't know. It's different.
Mean, it is different. You know, my grandmother. Okay, we're gonna dig deep into the archives here, and I'm gonna do a Robert Cole story, but I won't make it too long. You know, my grandmother was a telephone operator. Right, my grandmother was born in 1906, and she was a telephone operator from the age of about 21 until she was about 60. Right, so almost years she was a telephone operator. Right, and you know, during an era, we're talking 1927 to 1966. So this is the era of ladies, and let's be fair, they were women, right? There weren't a lot of guys in the job, sitting there, you know, patching wires into the thing, right? And because of the age she was, my grandmother always used to complain about the fact that no one wrote letters anymore. All they ever do is talk on the telephone. You know, and it was this lost era of people writing letters to one another, right? Times change, you know. Yeah. People used to take my baby pictures are on slides because that's how you took photos when you were my age as a kid.
Yeah. Oh right? Yeah.
You know, times change, tastes change, technology just. But what happens is the culture the culture adapts to the tech and changes what we do with the tech, right? Yes, the tech also shapes culture to some degree. Will people still be selfies 10 years from now? I have no idea. Will people still want ways to capture their memories? Absolutely. So I can see both sides of it, and I think we just our hoteliers is to say, how do we preserve the best of what exists, right? How do we preserve the best of the culture, and the stuff that changes we adapt to and make sure our guests are satisfied while we're adapting? I mean, that's my take. Maybe I'm on my soapbox now.
It's very true. I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm still amazed by the fact, and this is actually being forced on us as consumers. I don't answer phones anymore, not because I don't talk on the phone. It's just spam laden. I'm constantly seeing phone numbers from my area code, and I'm like, wow, my long lost cousin from 305. Really? Wow, I better talk to him.
Right.
And so I don't answer right away. But what it pushes me to is, and this goes, most people of youth anyway, prefer to text than talk on the phone anyway. Is
me too, by the way, and I'm not young. I do the same now. Text.
Mainly because at this point, calling on a phone, if they don't have my phone number come through to know that it's identified as me, they're just not going to ignore it like I ignore it. If I see a phone number come through, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then if it's somebody, I look at this. If it's somebody, they're going to leave a message. And I'll find out who it is, and then I know to call back to them. But you can text them; they'll answer right away. If you call them, you're running a crapshoot as whether you're going to get reach them. So we culturally are even changing in that component of it. Is that it's oftentimes text driven and so forth. I did download an interesting program. I haven't used it yet, and I loved it. Ask your opinion about this. It's called Dubb, D-U-B-B, and what it does is allows you to put video into your emails. Just send a video to somebody. Sure. And I picked it up just to play with it. I'm an AppSumoholic when it comes to buying software. And it, yeah, I know, right? Every week I go, hi, my name is Lauren. It's been 2 days since I bought an app.
Yeah, exactly.
But this software allows you to do a quick video to drop in, and from a sales perspective of whether or not that would actually improve the dialogue. Would you, if I sent you an email and it's me talking about, hey, Tim, blah, 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 is that more engaging? Or is it like, you know what, let me just read the email. I don't need to see your face.
So I will tell you personally, I'm not a fan of video. And I want to be very clear. This is one where as a focus group of one, I know I'm one, right? I commute a lot. I travel a lot. I'm in the car a lot. I'm on trains a lot. I'm on planes a lot, etc. Right? I don't know what my connectivity is going to be. Can't take my time from the road, etc. So I prefer either, reading stuff because I can read it at my own pace in my own snippets. If there's background noise, I don't have to worry about if I heard it or not. And if I'm in the car, obviously I can't watch the video anyway. So at that point, it has to be audio, right? So it to suit my lifestyle, like it drives me nuts when people send me links to things. This is a personal thing, right? Focus group of one. Drives me nuts when people send me links to things and you click on the link and it's a video. And I'm like, well, where's the transcript? Right. I just want to read the transcript, see if this is something I want to spend the next 5 minutes watching. And then maybe I'll watch the video later, right? So it's that kind of thing of video does not suit my lifestyle as a general rule, right? But that's a personal thing. That's not necessarily going to be true for everybody always,
I looked at it kind of the naked versus partially clothed mentality. Sometimes you just don't need everything complete. Just like, here's everything, nothing hiding. Sometimes you like a little mystery to it. Sometimes not having a talking head, is better. Yeah. And whoa, you look like that, do you? Alrighty then. You sounded better than you look, Lauren.
I've been told many times, Lauren, that I have a face made for radio. No, I'm
with you. I was like, I'm on that one too. I'm like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be putting my face out.
And I realize I'm saying all this while I'm on a video.
On video, right? Yeah, of course, we're calling kettle black for
and I want to be really fair. It doesn't mean the video doesn't have its place. It does mean that when you talked about all these news companies a year ago who were pivoting to video, that was for me a terrible thing. That's how most of those folks lost, right? Mm-hmm. Because it didn't work for my lifestyle. Now, if I'm going to sit down and watch a show or I'm going to watch a webinar or I'm going to watch a video because I'm dedicating the time to it because it suits my needs, that's a choice I make, right? If it's no, here's everything is a video. That makes me a little crazy, personally, right?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on it for that. And again, going back to the marketing angle of this and for hoteliers is it's the right thing at the right person at the right time.
Oh, for
what you just
sure.
pointed out, video is great, but then there's also the need. Nobody wants it because most people, when they're in their social media stream or what have you, don't have the audio on. So just having video
Right.
by itself, maybe visually engaging, and you're in a situation you said you're on a train. You're not going to go pop the volume on just to listen to a video that might be embarrassing because you don't know what it's doing. So having your early on transcript on the bottom to understand what the video is trying to convey is very important. So being selective about the medium that you use, and this goes back to A/B testing, multivariate testing. Try the message in different ways, and each channel, whether it be social, whether it be an ad, whether it be in the context of your web content or whatever, make the variations and see what gets engaged with, and then use that as a guidepost as to how you further out your content. It's not just this must be good because everybody else is doing it. Nope, it's going to be good for your guests.
Which, by the way, that's a great point, because obviously I'm running to your very specific question. I'm encouraging all my clients to do work on video now for YouTube, for Instagram stories, for IG, for Facebook stories, right? But that's a different context, because that's somebody who goes to YouTube or somebody who's checking out Instagram stories, they're deliberately saying, hey, I want to see video, right? Like, that's a self-selected customer who's saying video is important to me in this time and in this space where I'm at. So that's a very different reality, right? If it's, I'm going to send an email out to my clients, I put in a video in it, I don't know that I would do that, because that's not what the expectation is. That's not what that guest is looking for at that point in the process. Would I put a screenshot of the video and say, we put together this amazing new video that shows this cool event we did, or this thing that's coming up, or something along those lines? Click here if you want to watch it. Always do that. Right, but again, you're putting the control in the hands of the user, the hands of the guest, to say, yes, that appeals to me. Yes, that applies to me. Yes, I want to participate in that. Not, here's video.
Yeah,
right.
Take it because you were giving it to you. Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. I think you heard me bemoan, and this goes back, I think 4 or 5 months. I made a video ad for one of my clients to be played on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I told you I stung because they shot it out of the sky. They're like, this is And so there's a matter of timing. So as the product has matured in market, and as we've been able to segment out our markets of choices to whom we're pursuing and so forth, the discussion came back up as to, and this was unsolicited. They came and said, we're thinking with the youth business traveler, metro traveler person, we should do something on YouTube. I'm like, and I'm like, I cringe. I'm like, oh, I feel the sting still. Like, I brought this up before and I got beaten for it. I'm not bringing this back up. And they said, maybe we should do a video. And I said, well, funny you should ask that. And so I played the exact video. Now, to the same people. 5 months ago, that was, what do you think you're doing? That's the, and they're like, sure. Yeah, that's perfect. Wow, you must know we were going to talk about it. I'm like, no, you just don't remember. You shot it down before.
Which is okay. That's all right.
I was like, you know what? Hey, I'm glad you're happy with it. I'm glad you think that I'm so proactive that I can just pull this rabbit out of my hat and have this for you. I just wonder if they went back later and go, that looked awful familiar, don't you think?
No doubt. Oh, that's great. Right. Now, I'm very pro video. We know, I mean, if we take a big step back for 1 second, we know that, as Robert Cole has said many times, pretty pictures sell hotels, right? So video absolutely has its place. Imagery obviously has its place. If you're still finalizing your budget for 2019, find whatever your budget is for photography and video and double it, right? It won't go to waste. It'll have great value for you. It is just a question of where is the appropriate places to use that imagery, where are the appropriate places to use that video in such a way that's going to work for your guests. But yeah, true. I am very much on video as a means, as a medium, as a channel. I don't necessarily think it's something we're going to see everywhere all the time, just because context not always appropriate in every context, right? True.
To kind of go full circle on something that we started with the show with, but to go back for a different reason. Marriott and its debacle with data
Oh,
and
sure.
so forth.
Sure.
I wanted to bring up a little bit on something else to be concerned with because it's a living, breathing problem right now, and that is ADA compliance and GDPR compliance. And the reason why I'm bringing both of them up together is because it's all.
And you may as well add CCPA compliance to that as well.
Yeah,
California Consumer Privacy Act, right?
Which is going to be our version of GDPR pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the thing: is that okay? So Marriott data breach. This might be the first time that GDPR compliance enforcement gets teeth to it, perhaps, because it's a big enough carrot that maybe it will finalize or solidify the methodology of pursuing the violation of GDPR compliance. So what's happened, and this has happened in lots of areas for me, I'm not picking on any one client for any reason or not, is in the previous administration of our government, there was to be a finalization as to what was called minimum compliance with ADA compliances, as to what would be acceptable efforts to say that you are trying to be ADA compliant. Those were rolled back by the current administration as just, we're not going to make them. So now any violation or any terms of violation of an ADA compliance requirement is a course for lawyers to chase down litigation, to say, hey, we found this wrong, and so if you don't want us to sue you, pay a settlement. So they're just getting free money. And a lot of companies, even though they could fight it, prefer not to go through the process because it could be an expensive one and there's an uncertainty to it. They just pay it to go. So lawyers are walking around just, give me your money, give me your money, give me your money. GDPR is going to be the same way, I think, in that rollout. I would caution everybody that listens to the show, and I'm going to put this up, and anytime I get the point, if you can't book your accessible inventory with a keyboard through your website, you are going to get chased. Because that is the benchmark starting point that legal companies go chase after is, can I get to my accessible rooms with my keyboard functionality on your website? And if I can't, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to chase you down. Because that is then showing a very easy way to point out. It's not about color contrast so much. It's not about whether or not you have rollovers or a lot of other things, iframing and so forth. Because you need to be able to go through your website with a keyboard. It's called the ability to use the focuses, which is your drop downs and so forth, with your keyboard. And you'll be able to go over and navigate whether you had a mouse or not. You can go through the website. But the most important benchmark that usually gets referred to is, so you have accessible rooms, great, that's what you're supposed to have. Can I get to them? So definitely take that little litmus test just right off there. Then there's another website, I'll put it into the show notes. It's a website called Wave. You put your website in and it'll tell you what your website doesn't do for compliance. Great, another benchmark to look at. With GDPR, it's more than just sending out a privacy policy update and we take cookies on our website. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a compliancy workbook that you need to have. And what most people don't realize is they need to have that connectivity to all of their vendors to being compliant as well. Is the data that they mitigate also?
Well. Go ahead. First of all, I feel I have to pull you back from one thing real quick. We are not lawyers. You need to check with your own lawyer to make sure. From that perspective.
This is advice.
But with that, there are things as being a data processor versus a data controller. You have to make sure, depending on which data you're handling, which of those you are, and then you have to make sure that your vendors are acting in the correct way based on which one they are.
Mr. Jim, you're absolutely right.
But I think the point here is still absolutely right that, this stuff's going to cost you money, right? Marriott, since they are the story du jour, right? Marriott is, I've heard one news article said they might be facing a GDPR fine of about 17 million pounds to start. There are 2 separate class action lawsuits in the United States, and one of the senators, and I don't remember which U.S. senator, has basically said that Marriott should foot the bill for all the who need to get new passports. Now, let's just say for grins that's 1 million people, right? Let's just say for fun that's 1 million people. Let's say that the passport fee is, $20 or $50. That's $25 to $50 million. Yeah, I know. Right? This is going to cost them a fair bit of money. If they walk away from this without costing them, $30 or $40 or $50 before remediation of any of the systems that they need to do, they're walking away with a small price tag. And I only mean small in terms of how bad this could easily run them into many, many, many tens of millions of dollars, and possibly well over 100 million. Now, if you're a small hotel, if you're an independent hotel, whatever, obviously you're not going to get hit with fines that are that large, but you might get hit with fines that are more than you make in a year, and that would be just as bad, right? So you really owe it to yourself to work with, people who this is what they focus on and the like, to make sure you're putting yourself in a good position.
And there
right?
are, and this is not, this is an endorsement of us to do it in that sense. And good point to him is that this is my personal advice. Okay, not being a law person or anything like this. And there are great products out there that are specific to these things that will. There's companies out there that are GDPR focused, and there's companies out there that are ADA compliant focused that will audit, review. But here's the caveat to both of them. And I'll say this, and this is advice. If you look at the SOW, the statement of work with them, they all release themselves of liability. Nobody guarantees any of this. Yeah. There is not a single server person out there that says, if you hire me, I will guarantee that this will cover you. There is nobody out there. They will do everything that they're knowledgeable about, and they do a great job with it. But they are not guaranteeing that by doing that, you're still not being made potentially vulnerable by somebody that can pursue it for whatever reason. Right.
Absolutely. That's a great point. It's a really great point. Something you got to watch for. And the same is true, with your booking engine vendors and the like. When we talk about ADA compliance, I have the dubious distinction of having worked for a company that was for this, believe it or not, 12 years ago. So I've got a good decade and a half of experience with this. I spent 2 years of my life negotiating on behalf of a very large hotel company on Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1998, and basically trying to get ADA to apply to websites back in the year 2000s. And it's not fun. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, right? But we spent a lot of time meeting with not only the American Federation for the Blind, who were the folks who brought the suit, but also, the attorneys general of several states in the United States and the like. And it was not a pleasant experience. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Now, one upside I would say is if you do this right, it also helps a lot with a lot of the technical SEO things that you want for your website. Yes. For instance, things that you want to do for accessibility and compatibility, excuse me, is making sure you've got quality alt text on many of your images. And Google has actually just interesting. The other day they talked about this, all about how that plays a role in the algorithm in a new way. And it's helping Google understand, what the content is about. So it's definitely something you want to take a look at, and definitely something you want to think about. In fact, I'm going to post 2 links, one for Search Engine Roundtable. Google, if you want your images to rank, then use alt text. And I mean, that comes straight.
That's just good SEO.
It's just good SEO, and it's good from an accessibility standpoint. You can do right by your customers, you can do right by your business all at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the core element
we always look for.
Yeah, and to say this from a marketing perspective of this, and guest satisfaction and guest serviceability. Imagine not being able to look at a screen, but still needing to travel and to find a hotel.
Right.
Look at being colorblind, where you can't see a particular color, and so the websites that you look at, you can't see the differentiation between the font and the background because they're too similar, or in the color spectrum you can't see. There's a range of things that if you really truly want to provide the heart of the server, where you're providing a service to your guest, you should have this functionality to the benefit of that guest. It doesn't mean that you have to destroy the experience that other guests have with your website.
Oh no, not at all.
Not at all. It to somebody else. You're not chasing the tail the tail isn't wagging the dog on this, but to have this availability to it. And I would also recommend, and this is just good advice, but it's also helps in the process of what we're talking about, is show in a place in your site, whether it be your footer, so it's throughout your site or whatever. Hey, if you had any problems navigating our website, please let us know. Click here. Let us know. We'll help you with it. Okay. Or if in terms of give aspects of your site that need to have full compliance, black and white backgrounds, full navigability with a keyboard, all of these things, find a home for them on your website. It doesn't mean every flashy piece has to be just like that, but everything about the core functionality of your website, the ability for people to do business with your hotel is available there. It's just good business. And I can say this from a marketing perspective, any people that are travelers that have service needs, those who need a refrigerator for their insulin or whatever have you, you provide those service levels, you have a very loyal guest. They will always, in your market, come to you because they know that they need this and that you're providing these services. And you're not trying to charge them through the nose or whatever have you. It's always been about what is really truly ADA compliance. Is it the fact that the only wheelchair ramp is in your loading dock? Did you put one in the front of the hotel so that people can feel like they're a guest of your hotel? These things, if you do these things, you'll get a very loyal clientele that appreciate the efforts that you've done to provide service to them. So,
and especially when we talk about an aging population, if you think about it, that the youngest baby boomers, right, are folks who are currently in their early 60s, right? Is that true? No, I'm sorry, late 50s. No, my apologies. I did the math wrong. Sorry.
I'm on the tail end of the baby boomers. I'm in my late 50s.
right. Mid to late 50s. But obviously, what happens when you get into your mid to late 50s, right? Your eyesight starts to get worse. Your eyesight starts to get worse. You don't hear as well. Obviously, as you get older, don't get me wrong, people live longer. There's better healthcare and all these kinds of things. But the reality is, we're going to have a lot more people who need assistance from an accessibility perspective over the next 5, 10, 15 years than before. And so there's good business reasons to do it as well for the needs of an aging population, an aging customer base. So something you definitely want to take a look at.
Speaking of,
we've got about 9. Yep. I'm sorry.
I was going to say we're coming up close to the top of the hour. I don't want to lose track of the time. I want to just do the rot row at least to throw in there for it. Because It's just one of those, okie dokie, here's what happens. For the rub row is with Hilton. And if you want to cue it up, because you know the content, I'm going to go over into the link real quick. But a woman was not happy with her shower.
Yeah, she apparently there was a hidden camera that was filming her as she was showering. And then she was blackmailed, supposedly, allegedly, right? She was staying at the Hampton Inns and Suites in Albany, New York, when she claimed she was recorded by a hidden camera in her room's bathroom. And then the photo was uploaded to a pornographic website with her full name, and she began receiving emails from someone demanding more images of her. That's nuts. Obviously, I'm sure this was a franchised property. I don't know enough about the details, and I'm certainly not going to play a lawyer. Look, Hilton, clearly this is not their policy, right? Hilton, I'm sure, will be happy to pay some amount of money to make this go away. If the franchisee was aware and should have been aware, they're going to get smacked around pretty hard, and probably rightfully so. I mean, this is a horrible thing to do to a guest. This is anti-hospitality, right? Yes. It goes far beyond the norms of what, of anything. I don't even know where to go with this one,
Well, the connected dots, and this is different and in scope of the way they describe this is compared to the incident that happened where the guy put the camera on the door to film the
the reporter. Yeah.
That was a single person attacking a single person and in the venue of the hotel. This is and again, I echo, this is absolutely horrendous. Yeah. There's no endorsement of anything about this, but this is a money pursuit in the way that they're talking is that the hotel also went under renovation, and they're playing it off as that's a way of hiding the scene of the crime is because they renovated the hotel. So they're saying that Hilton's saying that, hey, we looked and there's nothing there. Well, it's all renovated, so why would it be? That getting into that little minutia, this is a horrendous thing to happen. Apparently, they're thinking that it's an inside. That it was a staff person that did this, that was the only person to have access. I don't know how to say that because that room gets rented to several people. Why would it be possible somebody put something in there that stayed there? Who knows? But the idea of it is that we always have to be mindful when you travel. Look for out of the ordinary stuff. I mean, I don't know. Every brand has its shower head, so you can go into Hilton has the rain shower head to it, and Marriott has the pressure head. But it's being aware as a traveler. Of course, you're not going to catch everything, but I'm also the traveler that brings my own smoke alarm. Why? Or CO2 alarm? Sorry, because they don't have them in hotels, and unfortunately, things happen, and CO2 is a silent killer, and there's no alarm in your hotel that tells you this. And it's just weird. It's a little dinky thing about this big. I carry it with me, especially when I'm traveling abroad, because different standards and coding. And I carry it with me. It's a weird little thing. It sounds like paranoia, but I do.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, look, bad for Hilton's brand. It's bad. It's bad for hotels generally, right? I'm a big believer in you sell the destination first. We want people to feel comfortable staying in hotels.
And safe,
and safe, all that kind of stuff. Like, this is bad. Whoever did this needs to, go to jail, frankly.
Yes.
I fortunately don't have to worry about this specific one on a level because people would pay me money to make sure I keep my clothes on.
Oh, I see.
Sorry. I was trying to lighten the mood a little bit. But, the reality is this is an awful story. This should never happen to anybody in under any circumstance. And, obviously I think Hilton will do what they need to do to take care of this woman in the world, because it's just a bad thing for them. Brand, it's a bad thing for their business, it's a bad thing for the industry, and I think
I'm all
an industry.
The pursuit of justice is paramount. Yes, I completely agree that she should pursue justice, and I completely agree that Hilton should collaborate with the pursuit of understanding how this to solve both problems, to solve the problem that it happened, and to solve the future potential for it not to happen again. I believe that should be happening. What I don't agree with is that it turns into a monetization discussion. I obviously there has to be compensation for the violation. I understand. It's just chasing Hilton down, as you pointed out earlier. It wasn't Hilton that did this, but Hilton had
of course not.
Of course, and so because of that, they're into it. But it's that process that we have to also as hoteliers mindful of our staff, mindful of training our staff, and mindful of our own quality executions. I mean, as a GM, I used to go over and follow up behind the housekeepers on their deep cleaning cycles. I mean, you have your general daily cleaning, and then you have your deep cleaning cycles. And you would follow your staff around to see, did they do the high dust? And and you as a hotelier, your hotel, your bread and butter place that you live and breathe, should inside and out. Every room's nuance. What rooms have the issues and what rooms don't have the issues and all the other stuff. So when you walk in the room, you should look and go, that's not our shower head. What the hell's that? You know what I mean? That should happen. Right. Or the housekeeper, if it wasn't the one that did it, it should be like, oh, that's not normal. Or at least ask the engineer, do we have to do a new shower? Something should have happened operationally to make sure that this circumstance doesn't happen.
Oh, of course. No, I think that's exactly right. And that's a point very well made. With that, we are about at the top of the hour.
Yeah. I truly love, not that I have anything against Ed, Robert. Sure. I love when we get the chance I get to corner you for an hour, man. I love the conversation.
Likewise, Lauren. It's always a hoot.
Well, with that said, we had a whole mess of topics that Robert was generously able to put together that we didn't hit. That will be in the show notes for it. I'm talking to a few guest co-hosts, trying to schedule them in. Holidays are always an issue in the sense of availabilities and so forth. And then in reverse, some of them have now finally a chance to breathe. Right now, I have no chance to breathe. I don't know about you, but I'm buried. Oh my gosh, everybody in the world needs something now. And I think there'll be a minor lull for the holiday week. And then all hell will hath break loose on the newest year.
Well, I will be here next week, though I have to tell you, the next time you see me, I will be a year older.
Hey, that's right. Yes. Early happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I can only tout great happiness about your downsizing option. It is Renee and I just
moved. We'll see how it goes. We're still planning out what we're thinking about and all that kind of stuff, but we'll see.
We love it. I mean,
and that won't happen until next year. So
yeah, but still, it is a weight off the shoulder. It is nice. I mean, now I say that we rented the office space 3 blocks away from our condo, so I can walk to it. So the back of our office space is my old garage.
Yeah.
So I didn't downsize as much as I was anticipating. It was the stuff I really couldn't get rid of.
Sure,
But it's
sure.
nice to have an alternate place that's not cluttering the condo. But having less,
Well,
kind of recommend it.
see, I got to figure out what to do with all the guitars. That's the real.
Rent an office.
And
next to
the
house.
keyboard and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna.
Well, make your own studio. Go get a little office space as your workspace. Because working and living in the same space when you downsize is, yeah.
For sure.
There you go.
For sure. Let's see. And we got the drum machine. We
Oh,
got,
This reeks of nothing but rental space. This is
keyboard over here. Yeah,
put some soundproofing on the walls for you. Make yourself a little studio. Oh yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Throw in the background all your badges and stuff, and your look at little Chotsky's way up there. See all my little Chotsky's way up there.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Very
Tim,
cool.
thank you very, very much. If people want to know more about, and obviously the source of all these great blogs you posted into, that it has articles and so forth, where can they find you?
TimPeter.com is the best place to go for everything. TimPeter.com for the podcast. I am Tim Peter on most social networks except for Twitter, where I am C Peter, just because we want to shake things up. And Lauren, where can they find you?
Well, for this show and all previous 173 shows, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. There you'll find the links for all the shows in the archives. And for this show in particular, you can click on the link for show number 174. With that in mind, I'm Lauren Gray on everything else, except for if you go to Musicality, I'm a really cute 16-year-old, 2 million plus following Musicality person that is now going to Broadway. I didn't know I was on Broadway, but I guess going to Broadway. But yes, that's the only, that channel Musicality, because I don't do music videos. There's a different Lauren Gray there.
Got it.
She's turning into a pop sensation. It's weird to see your name and a face that's not you. It's like, okay, it's literally your name. So, all right. With that, Mr. Tim, thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone, for those who watched live and will listen to us recorded. And until next week, Friday, 11:30 Eastern, for show number 175, that will conclude our show number 174. Till then, bye, everyone.
Fantastic. Take care.